Now for this week's JRPG news, there's so much. Usually I have like 3 to 4 news stories, sometimes less. This time I have like 9 or 10 or some shit, and so I'm gonna try not to go too deep into each of them, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, and as always, I source these mostly from Gematsu. Other than that, like if it's on my Twitter feed, I find it from there or YouTube. But yeah, let's just get started right away. First news story is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero got a GT trailer, which is pretty huge because a lot of people were wondering whether GT was gonna be in it. I thought it was really fucking obvious that it was going to be in it, but a lot of people weren't sure, and so they finally released a GT trailer. And clearly the developers or the social media accounts knew that this was the thing people were waiting for because they made it a big announcement. But there's a GT trailer. They showed all the characters you expect: Kid Goku, Super Saiyan 4, Goku, Gogeta, Omega Shenron, etc. The one main mission I noticed, there was no Super 17, I believe, which is kind of weird. I don't know if they're saving him for something, but that was one thing I noticed that wasn't there. But the trailer was fucking fantastic. It's nearly like 4 minutes long, and for some reason the trailers are really interesting. Even though the trailers are literally just there to show off characters, they always have kind of like a story spin to it to kind of explain the plot of the arc that they're showing off. So far I've been really liking the trailers. I really love that they've been doing it like every 2 weeks or whatever the cadence has been, and I think this is one of my favorite kind of trailer cycles a game has had, because I've literally been thinking about this game pretty much every week because of the way they've been marketing it, and I think it's been really good. And as you know, if you've seen a trailer before of this game, at the end they always fill in the roster of the game, and so you kind of get to slowly see it getting filled up. And after the GT trailer, you could tell there weren't that many spots left, maybe like 10, and which means that, you know, the announcements are probably going to stop soon. And that kind of leads to the next news story, which is that Sparking Zero full roster video is going to be tomorrow. So the trailer is literally called Full Roster, which we're going to complete the, you know, main roster of the game, and so that's going to be happening tomorrow on September 19th. And yeah, it's just very exciting to see that we're already there. The game is coming out soon. It's going to come out in a month. It is interesting to see that they are finishing it off September 19th. There's still a month to the release, so I wonder if they're going to be teasing more stuff. Maybe they're going to tease game modes or maybe maps or something like that. Maybe they can tease the DLC. But at the same time, teasing DLC before the game comes out is kind of weird. And so yeah, we're going to have the full roster tomorrow, and then we'll see how it is. Still not a fan how they're treating different transformations as characters, because the roster isn't really that big if you like kind of, you know, take the transformations and put them into one character. But at the end of the day, we're getting a Tenkaichi 4 pretty much, so I'm not gonna be mad about it. But yeah, so the full roster is gonna be finalized tomorrow. And yeah, that's pretty much all in terms of Sparking Zero. From here on to the next news story, which is Remastered is getting a demo. It actually got a demo, and it's now available on PS4, PS5, Switch, and Steam. If you don't know, Remastered is a game I've already talked about on this podcast, but it's this cool looking JRPG where you kind of play as 2 characters. And pretty much what this demo is going to be doing is, from what I read, you're going to be playing the opening chapters of the game, and based on that, I assume you can transfer save data. From what I read, I couldn't find information about it. Maybe there is. I didn't look too deep into it, but because you're playing the opening chapters of the game, I assume that there will be some kind of transfer progress. And if you don't know what Remastered is, I did get a little logline here that I can read, which is: Remastered is an atmospheric urban fantasy set in a realistic recreation of Shibuya, Tokyo, where the ultimate clash between magic and order is about to unfold. Seeking freedom through strength, the wizard Marin heads to Shibuya, where he meets Sari, an officer of the MEA, an organization dedicated to keeping wizards under control. So yeah, I've already mentioned in the past that I really like the premise of this game. It seems very cool. When I first saw it, I did not think it was like a wizard type game because it would look very modern. But the fact that it is, the fact that they have so many factions is very interesting to me, because like I love the Trails games. And one of the main things I love about the Trails games is that there's so many fucking organizations and factions. And I'm going to be talking about this later in the podcast when I'm playing Trails Through Daybreak right now. And already they have so many interesting groups and factions that you kind of got to play around and see how they feel about each other, and it's very interesting. And so this game kind of taking the concept of factions and making it its main theme of the game is pretty interesting. So yeah, Remastered I'm pretty interested in playing. I'll see if I play the demo, because like I said, I am playing Daybreak right now. That's literally my free time is going to that. I literally work, then after I'm done working, I just play Daybreak till I gotta sleep. And yeah, so we'll see if I do play the demo, but it is something I do want to try at some point. The next news story, and this is possibly the biggest news story depending on who you are, which is Freedom Wars is getting a remaster. Now Freedom Wars, okay, so the funny thing is, I saw this on my Twitter, like Bandai Namco posted a trailer, and the trailer is weird. It starts with like a live action scene of a guy going to jail, and I was watching it, I'm like, there's probably some like third person shooter or something that I don't give a shit about. And the name, I felt like I heard the name before, but I didn't know about it. And then when the gameplay actually started, I was like, oh, this actually looks cool. It actually looks like the visual style is very much like Code Vein or Scarlet Nexus, like that type of anime style, but kind of more serious. And so I got interested in the game, and after kind of looking into the replies and shit, turns out this is a game that a lot of people have wanted a remaster for a long time, but it's interesting because I've never heard about it. But before getting more into it, I'll read the logline, which is, for the crime of existing, your 1 million year sentence begins today. In a dystopian future, the world is ravaged by pollution and depleted of natural resources, and humanity lives in a sprawling prison complexes called panopticons. Anyone born into this hellscape are deemed sinners. Players seek their freedom by volunteering for extremely dangerous combat operations to compete with other panopticons for what remains of the planet's dwindling resources. Now, as always, this is the first time I read the logline. I like reading it live, so I can kind of give my fresh reactions on it. The million year sentence thing is very interesting. I don't know what this means. Because do the people actually live a million years? And also, it's very interesting that the crime of existing, like you're known as a sinner just for being born. I want to see how the game handles that, because what does that mean? Obviously, you're not born as an adult. You're born as like a baby. Are you like straight up a slave when you're born? Are you like if you're born a sinner, why are people even having kids? Like I want to see like what the world state is and how the world actually works, because just the premise of the world is very fucking interesting to me. So just from reading this, I'm like, I want to play the game. I want to see how it is. So I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on it. And there's also a bit more information if you want to know kind of the meta of the game, which is publisher Bandai Namco and developer DIMS have announced Freedom Wars Remastered, a remastered version of SIE's 2014 released PS Vita action RPG, including previously released downloadable content. It will launch on PS5, 4, Switch, PC via Steam on January 9th, 2025 in Japan, and January 10th worldwide. And I also thought that was interesting too, because it was a game from SIE, Sony Interactive Entertainment, and so this was a Sony game. And from the article, from what I could find, is pretty much DIMPS got the license and then Bandai Namco published it, and so we'll see how it is. But so far, it seems very interesting. And just to end it off, there were a few bullet points that they put in the article, which I thought I would list here, which is that this game has deep character customization, graphic and performance upgrades, obviously. And interestingly, for me, because I knew nothing about the game, is they have co-op battles with up to 7 players in the co-op mode. So I didn't know there was a whole co-op thing. It's very interesting that they have a co-op mode. You don't really see that these days. Usually a game is just single player or co-op, so the fact that it has a co-op mode is very cool to me. So yeah, everything about this game seems cool. It just came out of nowhere. I just saw it on my Twitter and it seemed very interesting to me, so I'll see how Freedom Wars is, and I'm going to keep my eye on it. The next news story is Disney Pixel RPG has a release date and is launching on October 7th. And this is a RPG I've talked about before in the past. I'm going to be talking about more in detail later in this episode, but it seems to be doing pretty good. It has apparently 600,000 people pre-registered already. I am one of them. And if you don't know what this game is about, I have a logline here, but it's actually the first time I saw it too, which is the game worlds that the Disney characters call home have suddenly been invaded by strange programs, resulting in chaos. Previously isolated game worlds have become connected, causing unexpected encounters between characters and throwing them into confusion. Take on the role of a player of these games and join Disney characters as you embark on an epic quest across multiple game worlds to restore order. Now, automatically, this seems very interesting to me. I didn't know that this was the spin that they're gonna go with the game, because I just thought it was gonna be like Disney characters just fucking exist together. But like mostly Disney games are like that. I think Disney Dreamlight Valley is like every Disney character just like chills together. But in this game, every Disney character is from a game and their worlds got connected, and you are a player of a game in this game and you gotta help them out. That's what the story is, which is very cool. I'm going to go deeper into this later in this podcast episode where I talk about this specifically, but in the segment where I talk about JRPGs I'm looking forward to, because they actually mention which game certain characters are from. So it's very interesting that the spin they're taking on this, but it's very cool. And yeah, the news story pretty much was that it's launching October 7th, which is within 3 weeks. So I already have it pre-registered. I can't wait to play it. And when I do play it and get to know it, I will definitely be giving my thoughts on this podcast. And from here, the next news story is Persona 5, the Phantom X presentation for Japan set for September 25th. Now, when I read this, I had no idea what this was. I'm like, is this like a game or something? And it turns out there is a free-to-play RPG available in some Asian regions, and that's what Persona 5 The Phantom X is. And so pretty much they just announced that there's going to be an event on September 25th. And it's an event in Japan, so I'm assuming this announcement is going to be for Japan release, because from what I can tell, I can't remember all the regions, but I think the game is out like in China, I think Taiwan, and somewhere else, and so it's not in Japan yet, and so I'm assuming this announcement is for Japan. I don't know if it's going to come in the West in the future, but I thought I would mention this just because I literally had never heard of this game, and maybe you haven't either, and so this might be something you might want to look into in case it does come out in the future. Another news story is a colorful action RPG, Starlight Revolvers, announced for PC, and technically this is not a JRPG. It's being developed in New York, I believe, but I thought it looked very cool, so I wanted to mention it. And pretty much it is going to be going to early access on Steam in 2025, and it is an action-adventure game with 4-player co-op multiplayer and roguelite gameplay. And visually, it looks fucking stunning. It is like this very bright and colorful. Like everything is like bright pink, bright blue, bright green. It has this very colorful anime style, and it looks 2D in ways, but it's isometric 3D game. And so that's what it is. It's an isometric 3D game. It looks 2D, but it has this anime style, and it's very fucking cool. And I honestly didn't expect it to be a multiplayer game. When I saw it, I'm like, there's probably a single player RPG. But because it's a 4-player like roguelike type game with this style, I'm kind of interested in it. So I'm gonna see, maybe I can play this like with my brother or something, because we usually play co-op games together. So I'm gonna show him this game at some point, see if he's interested. But so far it looks very cool. And before we end it, there is a logline which I'll read, which is: Starlight Revolver is set between the lush cutting-edge city of Nishi Island Metropolis, NIM, and Somi, the otherworldly dreamlike realms that fuel NIM's prosperity. Wielding mysterious devices called revolvers to hop between NIM and Somi, players become divers, brave voyagers who crash through the walls of reality in pursuit of untapped riches. And yeah, it just looks like a very cool game. And again, technically not a JRPG, but I thought I'd bring it up in case you are also interested in it. We're getting to the end. We're almost done the news section. But another news story is Zenless Zone Zero version 1.2 update called Tour d'Inferno launches September 25th. Now, I love Zenless Zone Zero. It was a game that I was playing like religiously for a while. Like I was playing it every fucking day. I was playing like for long hours. But for some reason, this happens to me with some games where if I play a game a lot for one day, like for a long time, that one day, the next day I just stop playing it. This happened with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where like I don't play Assassin's Creed games anymore. They're just not my style, like when they got rid of like the Desmond storyline. But with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I think I got it for free or very cheap. I started playing it, I loved it, and one day I played from like morning to night. Like I just really loved it. And then the next day I just didn't touch it, and I never touched it again. I don't know why, and I don't plan to go back to it. It's just like, it's not like the story was interesting to me, because like I usually Western games don't have that good of a story for me. Like they're not that interesting to me, and so Assassin's Creed is one of those. And because I was just playing for the gameplay and I kind of stopped, I'm not that interested anymore. And so the same thing happened with Zenless Zone Zero, where like I was playing it all day and I just stopped at some point. Unlike Odyssey, I am going to get back to this. The reason I stopped is because, like a lot of Hoyo games, Genshin Impact 2, they have a lot of walls that come up once you're caught up to the game. So it was getting to the point where like I would do like 30 minutes to an hour of story, and then they're like, oh, you gotta level up 4 times to continue, which gets really annoying pretty fast. Wuthering Waves is another game that kind of has this, but Wuthering Waves is a lot better with it, where like usually they don't make you level up as much, and if they do, it's easier to level up Wuthering Waves, so I never really felt the wall that hard. Whereas Zenless Zone Zero, there were like 2 to 3 days where I just had to get the XP and just level up and stop playing. The next day do that again and stop playing until I was with the story again. And so at this point, I'm just kind of waiting for there to be more updates, and maybe this is the update that I'm going to jump into again, because it's very cool. And I'll just read the description of the update right now, which is: proxies will expand their journey in New Eridu to the desolate outskirts known as the Outer Ring, while hopping on a passionate motorcycle ride with Caesar, Bernice, and other members from the Sons of Kaladin. Meanwhile, the brand new arcade game Bizarre Brigade at Godfinger and various events including Overlord's Feast will offer players more entertaining ways to enjoy the game. With optimizations for the TV mode, squad preset, time, and stamina systems being implemented in this version update, Zenless Zone Zero is aiming to keep providing its players with a better gaming experience. So this kind of explained everything that's happening. So the actual content is a new story mode with a new area with this new group, and I know what this group is, the Sons of Kaladin. I don't know that's what they're called, but I have one of the characters that's in it, this kind of girl with the bat. And what's very cool about this is clearly they're being introduced to the story now in this update. But ZZZ, what it does is that's cool is you'll see these characters in the world before it's even their time in the story. So the people that are in this story update, I've seen them in the town, I've seen them walking around. You're able to talk to them, and they'll say stuff that you won't understand right now. Like, so they'll say like, oh, X is like here, we should go hang out with him or do this or whatever. And they will clearly be living in the world doing their own thing. And when I saw them, I'm like, clearly they're going to be in the story in the future. I just didn't know when. And it's funny to see that it wasn't even out yet and it's coming out now. So things like that really make the world seem like it's living, and so that's very cool to see. And you know, other stuff that was mentioned is they're gonna have a new arcade game. ZZZ has an arcade where you get to play some games. I believe some of them are multiplayer. I haven't tried them yet. I've only played like the Snake arcade game, and there's this other Tetris-like game. And so it looks like they're adding another arcade game, which is very cool. And they said they're just doing some more fixes and optimizations, which is cool to see too. But yeah, ZZZ version 1.2, Tour d'Inferno, is coming September 25th. And finally, the last news story, which is Rainbow Sea for Switch and PC launches on September 20th. Now, I'll just read this real quick, which is: Rainbow Sea is a multi-ending adventure with pixel art style based on the myth of the traditional Japanese gods, 7 lucky gods. You explore inside a treasure ship and make choices to change the storyline. All 22 endings are true endings, and only you can know the authentic story. That's a lot of endings. Okay, so I actually read this one before the episode because I just happened to by accident. And when I read the 22 endings, I was like, what the fuck, 22? And then more than that, they said all 22 endings are true endings. I'm not sure what that means because I just don't know what that means. Like, how can all of them be true endings? And pretty much it makes it sound like that they're just saying like, whatever story you get is the canon one. But at the same time, if they're wording it like that, they're making it seem like they don't want you to get the other endings. Like, it seems like they were saying like, whatever ending you get is the ending. Like, that's how it ends, you know, canonically, which is okay. I don't know what that means really. And there's a bit more of a description which I'll read right here, which is Rainbow Sea is a multi-ending pixel art visual novel based on the Japanese myth of the Seven Lucky Gods. It depicts a year in the life of a human who was chosen as a candidate to become a god, living among the Seven Lucky Gods, who do not seem to open up much to her. You, as a human, can explore the treasure ship and make choices to change the storyline. All 22 endings are true endings, and only you, the player, will be able to find the real story hidden behind all of them. So that gave a bit more information about who the character is and what the actual stuff you're gonna be doing is. I noticed that they say, as a human, you can explore the treasure ship and make choices to change the storyline. Is the only location a treasure ship? That'd be interesting because there's certain movies that do this where it's kind of like a one location and they just have the entire game there. So I wonder, is this a one location game? I'm not sure, but it being a ship is cool. Visually it looks cool too. It's pretty much a pixel style isometric JRPG. It's all 2D, but the actual like art of the characters is like anime style, so it looks pretty cool. And honestly, the premise just sounds dope, that you're a candidate to become a god. The gods don't really like you, or they don't open up to you, and so I'm honestly interested in this game. We'll see if I play it. It looks more like an indie type game, so we'll see how it is when it comes out. But yeah, Rainbow Sea for Switch and PC launches March 20th.